was wondering if you guys could just kind of shed some more light on maybe the possibility of the destruction of Damascus and the rebuilding of Babylon.
Okay. Well, I talked a moment ago quite a bit, so I'm going to go ahead and go to Dr. George. I'm going to let him kind of talk about this. He pastors a Messianic congregation there, so I'm sure he will have some insights here on these Old Testament passages. And so, Dr. George, how can you help CJ?
Oh, boy. Interestingly, I just got back from Israel. We left on Thursday morning, and the war started on Saturday morning. So we just missed the beginning of the conflict. And, of course, we have lots of friends and even relatives that live there. One of the ministries I'm a part of, CMJ, it's the church's ministry among the Jewish people. It's the oldest mission to the Jewish people in the world, founded in 1809. And they have a significant presence in Israel. And 30 of their staff members got called up for this war that's underway. So, I mean, that doesn't directly address the question, but what it really sort of brings home in a very personal way is both how volatile that area of the world is and always has been, and how dangerous it is. And specifically, when and how Babylon might be rebuilt. I don't know the answer to that. I do know, and maybe you know this as well, that Saddam Hussein, when he was the dictator of Iraq, built a 3-quarter size model of Babylon. And his idea was that that would become a big tourist draw for people from all over the world. How that fits into the war that is underway and the several wars since 1948, I honestly don't know. I read the prophecies, and I know that there are folks that consistently will say, well, this is it right now. And yet in my life, each time somebody has said that, what has happened instead is what Jesus said, which is nobody knows, not even the Son, only the Father. And I wish I had more insight than that, but I know that if he doesn't know, I don't know.
Okay. Well, George, thanks so much for that. And CJ, concerning Babylon, I was going to share exactly what George just mentioned, talking about Saddam Hussein, and it was really his ambition. He kind of viewed himself, I've heard, as Nebuchadnezzar, a Nebuchadnezzar reincarnated type of figure, and wanted to make Babylon, well, I hate to use this expression, but great again, in the sense of rebuilding it and all of that. Now, what's interesting is when you read Revelation chapter 18, it speaks of a commercial Babylon there. And, some people have tried to say, oh, that's New York City because it's such, a huge city and such an influential city as far as economy in the world and such. And because of the Wall Street and all this sort of thing. But, it could be. We don't know for sure. We do know that what we're looking at there in Revelation 18, which will exist in the end times, right before Jesus comes, is this place called Babylon, which again is a commercial center of the world. And could it very well be the city of Babylon? It could. But that's where we do see it mentioned again, and then we see its fall there in Revelation 18. So that could be a possibility. It's also interesting too that in Peter's epistle, that he used the word Babylon as a code word for Rome, describing Rome. He, instead of saying Rome, he used Babylon, which a lot of people believe that he was using it as a code word for Rome. So that's what we see in the New Testament as far as Babylon's concerned. And, is it going to be rebuilt and all of that? As Dr. George said, we'll have to wait and just see, but I don't think we'll probably be around to see that in the sense of, the timeline of things. We could, but it was interesting concerning Saddam Hussein and his plans. But also,
I might.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I might interject something else here too, which most believers don't know about, but I think it's actually germane and interesting. And that is during the exile of Israel to Babylon. That exile was the origin of what today is known as the Talmud. When you talk to Orthodox or religious Jews, you know that they study Torah. That's the first 5 books of the Old Testament. They also study the prophets and the writings, but their primary emphasis is on Torah. And the initial commentaries, the rabbinic commentaries on Torah, were written during the exile in Babylon. And they were later organized and printed. They were originally just oral rulings, which were repeated. That's why it's sometimes called the oral law, as opposed to the written law that's found in the commandments in the Torah. And in fact, it even comes forward to today. Jews have a different calendar than the Gregorian calendar, which most of the Western world uses. And for Jews, this is like the year 5784. It's a much longer, older calendar. But what's interesting is the names of the months in the Jewish calendar come from Babylon. And they are mostly the names of Babylonian gods that have been transformed into the names of the months. Now, we might sort of look down on that until you study the names of the months in the Gregorian calendar, and most of them are Roman gods, plus a handful of others. So Babylon is important because much of the commentaries written by Jewish scholars studied until this very day in yeshiva began during the exile in Babylon.
Okay. That's very, very interesting. Yeah. And that's why I say, when you go to the end of the book of Revelation, it mentions it there. At least it's mentioned there as the economic hub of the world and a one world economic system. So very interesting. It's Babylon is a key player all through Scripture. And CJ, also too, concerning Damascus. Now I don't know where things stand at right now, but what I did hear is I heard that, if there becomes another front on the war and Hezbollah comes in from the north and starts attacking Israel, I heard that Israel then was threatening to actually, send rockets and missiles, I guess, into Damascus, into Syria, is what I had heard. So I'd have to go again and go to some reputable sources and confirm that and find out where things are at concerning that. But when I did hear that, my ears perked up, either because of Isaiah 17 and those scriptures like that.